Chapter 10. Don't be a one-upper or double-downer if you want any friends. There you are, alone at a social gathering yet again. For some reason, every person you talk to seems to escape minutes later with a lame excuse like wanting to go mingle with the hors d'oeuvres or eat the other party attendants. I might have mixed that up. Regardless, you've been interrupted multiple times by people saying they need to hit up the ladies' room to avoid you too. And you know they're lying because you didn't hear anything with your stethoscope through the door. Hell, you've even made people bolt away at a full running gait straight through plain glass windows at the top of skyscrapers. Just what the heck's happening? Assuming your hygiene's on point and you don't greet folks by groping them, I'm afraid you're probably committing another faux pas that's equally as irksome as not bathing. Sucky communication. Yep, we need to have a conversation about conversations, no matter how redundant that sounds. Because it's likely you may be a one-upper or double-downer, two terms I've coined to help humanity reduce its suck levels. And you probably won't find those in the dictionary despite my claims, because my lawyers are quite aggressive at protecting my intellectual property. Ever send a death threat to the dictionary before? Yeah, me neither. Anyway, so let's move on with a little role play to make sure you don't rub somebody the wrong way during your next social encounter. To help you figure out if you might be one of those one-uppers or double-downers, we'll run through a little scenario that'll make everyone a bit more bearable if they listen. Imagine strolling through a park, and you're in need of human contact. As luck would have it, about 50 feet away, you spot a dude sipping your favorite beverage on a park bench. What's your favorite beverage so I can customize the story? Really? Okay, weasel spit it is. This person's sipping down a vintage bottle of weasel saliva all alone, and you'd like to bond with them. So you take a few deep breaths and maybe a whiff of poppers to get the courage to take the plunge. And then it's time to use one little statement that's a little nifty password to get your foot in the door with virtually any person. Hello. To judge the effectiveness of your efforts, monitor the situation. If the person doesn't immediately dash away, you're on the right track. That's a damn good start, and you now have a chance to build some rapport with someone if you don't screw up the next couple minutes. Let's go through a few basics. First, follow the one-word cheat code hello by stating your name. You don't need to include your middle name though. It's too official and embarrassing should yours be Francis or Gaylord or something else that's equally as devastating. Second, make sure to blink at a typical rate like most humans rather than glaring at them so long that bugs can lay eggs in your eyeballs. Third, mention your common interest, which again I'm still astounded you picked weasel spit. And fourth, you must give this person your full attention while at least acting like they're important for a few minutes. That's right. Don't even think about getting distracted by the lady 2 park benches over who's shoving entire chicken wings in her mouth and pulling out the meat-free bones like a piranha. You must show this new guy that you legitimately want to learn more about him, what makes him tick, and the things in his life that he thinks sucks. Are we okay so far? Well, that's great, you socialite. That means you're well on your way to forming a relationship with something you don't have to feed or pick its poop up on walks. Next, he'll likely share his name. We'll call him Chuck. No, you can't name him something else, you weirdo. I learned my lesson when you picked weasel saliva as your drink of choice last time. His name's Chuck, shut up. Chuck will then say hello back. After you tell Chuck a little bit about yourself and your commonalities of weasel spit consumption, eventually Chuck will reveal something about him that I can't prepare you for. And you must display interest in whatever he shares, even if it's unbelievably boring. Now, you have a couple of options at this point when selecting a proper reply. Down the non-sucky path, you could respond with enthusiasm and inquire more about the information because it's important to Chuck. Even if you think he's idiotic, you'll allow the discourse to venture into areas you don't necessarily care about, like Chuck's kidney stone collection. And 90% of the time, it should ebb and flow back and forth until one of you gets tired enough to leave. If that occurs, you've at least made progress. So keep it up until you find someone else who you click with more. Wait a minute, what? You went ahead and responded to Chuck before I told you what to do next? Oh boy, what'd you say to him? No, you actually told Chuck your name was way better than his? Then you said your taste buds can taste more subtle notes of the weasel spit compared to his too? And when Chuck said he had to leave, you physically blocked the sidewalk while blurting out, "I bet my day is way more packed than yours, you kidney stone collecting freak." Well, now your bloody face makes a lot more sense to me after hearing the full story. So Chuck thrust the bottle of weasel spit right into your eyeball when you ticked him off, eh? Yikes. Though you almost certainly have rabies, I suppose the spit should at least kill the bug eggs up there. I feel bad telling you this, but Chuck didn't turn you into a cyclops because he's unbalanced. It's officially your fault. You've been an insensitive blowhard, you one-upper, and this needs to stop before someone else makes you go completely blind. Now that we know what you are, let's explore how to remedy these major gaffes you've made in your carnage-filled chit-chat. The one-upper dwells in braggadocious realms, always ready to top anyone with their superhuman feats made as irrelevant statements. You should avoid these errors much like most folks would dodge people walking around parks with a bottle of weasel spit lodged into their eye socket. But you know what? You're not giving up on old Chuck after all. You're going to go back to that park bench a few weeks after your Cyclops injuries heal, with your medical bandaged head held high, approach Chuck slowly waving a white flag, and then promptly apologize. When he spots the eye patch you're forced to wear the rest of your life, you've just accrued a ton of sympathy points that typically take years to build in real friendships. The guilt-ridden Chuck will then ask you to sit down, possibly giving you a fresh bottle of weasel spit, while admitting he may have overreacted too. And now it's time to avoid the same vision-impairing mistake so you can keep your other retina intact with absolutely no bottle jabbing. I'd like you to picture Chuck gushing to you that your prior encounter led him down a path of better health. Yes, when he tried to bolt away from you and the bloodied park bench before, he got so winded that he decided to take up jogging as a hobby. And Chuck then reveals that on this very day, he ran his first mile ever. You know, the intentional kind of exercise, not the stuff one does when nabbing an entire tub of dumplings from a food truck and fleeing from local authorities. The point is, Chuck is exuding pride about his lifestyle change in this hypothetical situation and is more than eager to share it with you while he lets his guard down. With the throbbing pain as a reminder from earlier, you'd respond positively without bringing up your own accomplishments first, right? That's an improvement, I say, because the old you would have commended him for exercising in public with a body as bad as his, unlike yours. And then you would have belittled Chuck's mile, boasting that you've already breezed through 4 marathons and have a slideshow ready depicting your glorious victories. So I'm super glad we're on the same page now. It's odd to gloat about an activity that our ancestors did every day to stop getting torn apart by tigers on their way to check the mail. But it's also rude to try and outdo Chuck in a moment like this, right? There are far better ways to respond that won't make anybody lose an organ. For any other one-uppers still out there, please remember that verbal intercourse isn't a competition. I, for example, have run so many miles on treadmills that there's a cemetery-sized plot of half-buried ones in my backyard, underneath the potato chip bags. And you don't see me bragging about it, do you? So if I heard that Chuck was becoming more active, I'd save my story until another time for his sake. Okay, I'd also play it safe just in case he's a cop and could arrest me for filling my land with hazardous materials so close to an aquifer. But even though I'm pretty much an Olympic athlete on my treadmill, I wouldn't mention it until I fully discussed Chuck's growth first. What's that? You're calling me out for tooting my own horn about treadmill stamina twice when I told you not to do that very action? Nice job there. You passed the next test. Don't do what I just did there. It's so annoying that anyone in their right mind would want to shove my face on a treadmill belt while it's spinning at full blast. Next up is an offense that makes your narcissism even more negative. This type of person will ruin any interaction with tales of woe that always seem to exceed the original speaker. Yep, the double downer completely spoils the mood like dropping a crock pot of sauerkraut in an elevator. Let's say your still contingent acquaintance Chuck invites you to dinner a month later after you've forgiven him for the whole Cyclops thing. As you're munching away at the restaurant, Chuck tells you he can't run anymore because his doctor found a heart murmur so bad that it's classified as techno music in most countries. In that scenario, as a human who doesn't suck, I'd let Chuck know I am there for him and willing to drive him to any doctor's office if he tries to hook me up with at least one nurse. Yet be warned, because you're not fully safe from your gab fest turning into a stab fest just yet. Once you get to know Chuck, you might be tempted to reveal the darker aspects of your life that you most certainly have if you're reading a self-help book in the first place. But if you go too far with that, you'll quickly become the double downer. They're the buzzkills of every friend group and the destroyers of anything deep, constantly reminding us how horrific their life is compared to the rest of ours. Your one-room apartment is so spacious compared to the basement coffin that they're forced to reside. Your beater car runs so smoothly compared to their rusty roller skates, too. Like playing 3-card Monty with a dealer who cries on the cards so much that they become indecipherable pulp, you can't win with these mopey people at all. Yes, these folks only spew self-centered sadness from their bleak voice boxes. Instead of consoling Chuck about his failing heart at the restaurant, the double downer would undoubtedly release this inconsiderate statement instead. You think that's bad? My family locked me in a clock tower because I failed high school French. See the difference? If you were to utter that to Chuck, he wouldn't want to share anything with you again except another bottle of weasel spit into your last eyeball. For any double downers out there, please consider how your misery might not be the best choice until after the other person's feelings are recognized and all weapons are out of reaching distance. Try adding something to the cathartic session instead of ramping up your own tragedies that escalate to absolute horror. Not only is it rude to Chuck when he showed vulnerability at dinner, but I'm pretty sure the families next to you would also ask to switch tables. Of course, if they did, you'd probably tell them to suck it up because at least they weren't kidnapped in Vietnam and forced to make bondage ball gag masks on their birthdays. If everyone in earshot will lose their appetite even quicker than your dignity, just shut your depressing trap before they attack you too. And there we go. You now know the exact ways to form bonds with other people. Of course, you also now know how to increase your chances of becoming a blind hermit too, if that's your thing. Follow my guidance and you'll become a cunning conversationalist in no time, and you'll leave with the aptitude needed to collect enough friends to play strip paintball with like you've dreamed of since childhood. Exchanging thoughts with others can be an enjoyable part of the human experience so long as these one-uppers and double-downers stop sucking so much when it comes to polite chit-chat. In fact, should you ever encounter both types of these people at a party, introduce them to each other and then excuse yourself to go check out the hors d'oeuvres. They'll be slicing each other's throats with serving spatulas before you can even get through your first cocktail weenie.